This question from Semester 2, Chapter 8 requires candidates to understand the oxygen dissociation curves of the human. The correct answer is C because only Statement 1 accurately describes how to determine the amount of oxygen delivered to a specific tissue using the dissociation curves. The upper curve represents hemoglobin in a resting muscle where carbon dioxide levels are lower, while the lower right shifted curve represents an active muscle experiencing the Bohr effect. At the lungs point P, hemoglobin is nearly 100% saturated. When that blood reaches a resting muscle point S, its saturation drops. Therefore, the difference between the saturation at the lungs P and the saturation at the resting muscle S represents the percentage of oxygen that has been released and delivered to that tissue. Other statements are false. For Statement 2, point Q represents the saturation of hemoglobin at the lungs under higher carbon dioxide conditions, not the amount of oxygen carried to a muscle. For Statement 3, the saturation at point R indicates how much oxygen is still bound to hemoglobin at an active muscle, not the amount of oxygen required by a resting muscle. For Statement 4, the amount of oxygen delivered to an active muscle would be the difference between saturation at the lungs P and saturation at the active muscle R, which is PR, not P. Q. For Statement 5, Q. S does not represent a physiological delivery path, as oxygen delivery is measured as the drop in saturation from the arterial state P to the venous state at the tissue S or R.